try to stay focused. You know, I've been in that situation before, and I've learned a lot from being in that scenario. And I think as a receiver, like a few times last year, I kind of let that get the best of me, and you know, I missed some plays. There's some games that I remember where I kind of got in my head a little bit because you just want to make plays. You know, when you're a big part of the offense, you get the energy going. You just want to have those opportunities. So I've just learned a lot over my years is just to be patient, stay focused, and control what I can. And I just feel like I did a good job of, you know, making the plays that came to me and just trying to keep a good attitude because I know this is a long journey. This is his first opportunity with live bullets flying. And so it doesn't help if I'm showing a bad attitude. So just the competitor in me, you know what I mean? I want to hit those. I know how big of plays those are. And the good thing about it, he puts a lot of work in. And I know we're going to look at the film and look at other opportunities to try to get me involved and even just have the opportunities to just connect on more plays. But good thing about it, it's early and, you know, I'm not panicking.
Donna Hopkins here in Tampa as the Commanders just walked away with their first loss of the season. But the players said, don't panic. But looking at the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to start there because it was a lot of breakdowns, a lot of missed tackles up front where Baker Mayfield was just eluding the defensive front. You didn't hear John Allen's name. You didn't hear Daron Payne's name. But one guy I thought that stood out was Jamin Davis. But when you assess that defense, we know that the secondary was going to be a question mark going in, so you had to have pressure up front, and that did not happen. It was so many mistakes, missed tackles, and so forth. What's your takeaways for the defense?
Not good. I mean, Jamin Davis did have a pretty good game. You know, he did, you know, get some pressure around the edge, made some plays, but it was in a limited role. So maybe now, after watching film, maybe now he gets more of a, you know, central role. You know, I think that there were some other things that were out there. You know, the missed tackles stood out from the very beginning of the game. They just couldn't get them off.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, and then the main thing, and you're never going to win a football game if your defense can't get teams off the field on third down. And I think the Buccaneers were like, you know, 6 for 11 on the day as far as third down conversion. So you're just not going to be able to win a football game if your defense can't get the opposing team's offense off the field. And I think that caused, you know, them to be affected on the offensive side of the ball because you just couldn't get any kind of rhythm. So today was just a game where there was just nothing working. Special teams was abysmal. You know, they may be looking for a new kicker. You know, so it's just nothing worked. So the only true bright spot for today was Jaden Daniels. And you can see that he's a next level talent for a team that hasn't really had real frontline talent like this guy. They've had some good players, but some of the players that they have that they've touted as Pro Bowl players and really good players around the league, they're not looked at like that around the NFL. Maybe two, maybe Terry McLaurin and maybe Jaden Daniels, and it kind of proved itself today.
And one thing going back to the defense is Benjamin St. Juste talked about the breakdowns on defense, the crossing patterns where it was wide open receivers. He talked about the communication that has to get right. He talked about communications a little bit on some of the crossing plays, like you said, when some of the guys was wide open. What was happening there? Was it just the lack of just the communication part in those plays right there?
Well, a lot of us are new. Some of those plays are new too. And like I said, like when you got new players, new plays, you got to reinforce that communication. Even though you think that the other person might know, you're like, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. It doesn't even matter if the other team hears us like talk about or adjustment. We just got to make sure that everyone is good on the same page. Because you might be on the same page for a certain play, but then you're a guy on the other side just ran down 40 yards trying to chase down someone. He's tired. He forgets that, oh, okay, in this formation, I got to take this player. So we consistently got to do that so I think we can take away 14 points on that board today from those plays. So we're going to fix that, and we're back next week, you know, another opportunity. And
you know, these guys are working together, some of them for the first time. Sam Cosby on the other side talked about, you know, how many new players and them just getting on the same page and gelling. So when you don't play in the preseason enough, this is what's going to happen. But they said it's one game. Everybody said that, one game. But
yeah, I mean, there's a lot there to learn. I couldn't pinpoint exactly what's, you know, like we had explosive plays that we had penalties on that really hurt us, and just like it's really important to get the drive going, you know, and we can't hurt ourselves, you know, and put ourselves at a deficit going into you know, into the game. So we just can't do those type of things.
What was your sense of how the line played, considering you guys had a ton of snaps all 5 together?
No, I think as a unit we did pretty good. Just from my feeling, I think protection was good for the most part, and you know, when it came to running the ball, I felt we were efficient whenever we did. You know, it was just, I couldn't tell you. I really couldn't. It's weird. This one was a weird one.
Do you feel like some of that is a little bit of a natural outgrowth of, like, again, you haven't been together a lot?
This is a whole new team.
Right.
Like, what was it, like 53% of the team is so new, you know? Like, we're just trying to, like, get that going. And props to the Buccaneers. I mean, they're a really good football team. You know, went deep in playoffs and are just overall, you know, been together for a while and are a really good football team. So, you know, like I said, we hurt ourselves in certain scenarios, and you know, we're going to learn from that. Again, we're still a new and young football team, so we just keep on believing in us. You know, I think for the first time, you know, there was a lot of stuff thrown at him, and for the most part, I think his ability to stay calm still amongst adversity and doing all that was still very strong. I didn't really feel from him like anything wavering or panic or anything like that. You know, like I thought for collectively, you know, there was a moment at the very end we're in the huddle, and it's kind of we're on a timeout, and we kind of just look at each other and just like, hey man, we got something here. Let's in that 2-minute drive, like we could do something. You know, let's learn from this. You know, so you know, there's still a lot to work on. And again, this is our first showing versus a really good opponent.
But these things have to be fixed quickly moving forward. And like you say, Jayden Daniels is a bright spot, but the wide receiver area is another area that you have to get them involved. They've got to get open to help Jayden Daniels a little bit more. What do you think there? I thought the running game, when they did run the ball, was really well. Austin Eckler, even Brian Robinson. But it's the wide receivers that did not get involved enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. They haven't shown that they have a playmaker on offense as far as at the wideout spot. I mean, Terry's a guy that, you know, makes tough catches, you know, can get down the field. Jaden missed him on that one deep pass. But I mean a guy that when you're in a jam, you can throw the ball to and they can create 5, 6, 7 yards just on sheer elusiveness and things like that. And that's something that right now it seems like they might be a little devoid of. You know, you didn't see some of the guys that had bright spots in training camp step up in today's game. And again, I don't think it was the offensive line playing particularly poor. They actually played well under the circumstances. But the skill set guys on both sides of the ball, in the secondary as well as the wide receiver position, they just didn't get it done flat out today. And, you know, you're not going to win football games if you have the kind of talent that they have now at quarterback, but he doesn't feel like he can trust the guys to get them the ball for them to make plays themselves.
I mean, I thought, obviously, the goal is to win football games, and we did not get that done. He's going to put a lot of pressure on himself to be better, just like I'm going to put a lot of pressure on myself to get better. But I think going against a Todd Bowles defense in your first start is probably the hardest matchup you can have in this league. Obviously, I played against Todd multiple times in my career, and what he does is some of the toughest things you'll see as a veteran player. And for him to be able to execute as he did, obviously we didn't finish in the red zone with touchdowns like we needed to, which came back to bite us in the end. But I know this whole team is excited to play with Jayden, and I think he's going to be really good for a really long time.
Quick assessment of what you've seen out here today from the offensive side of the ball and from the defensive side.
Well, I saw on both sides of the ball. I can tell you they started off a little slow, and I guess you can expect it when in this time of the year you're not playing a lot of veterans and the whole team together in preseason. So in my mind, you have to practice football to play football. And they started a little bit slow, but you saw some good things out there. You saw a lot of bad things as well. But the ultimate thing is the young quarterback who we all expect to be good. He showed that he could be great.
Defensive side of the ball. I don't know if you saw so many great things out there from the defensive side of the ball. Up front, they knew that they had to put pressure up front to help out that secondary. I didn't see Baker Mayfield was eluding them over and over again, the same thing. Talk to me about what you're seeing on the defensive side.
Well, like I said, you have to get pressure up the middle. And when you get pressure up the middle, you need to make sure you keep containing the quarterback. They didn't do that a good bit today. And for me, when I saw that early on, what I was happy about, they had turnovers in bad field position, but they held them to field goals. But as the game went on, Baker Mayfield and his crew, who did it all last year, he showed this year that he's in the mindset of doing the same thing again. He hadn't done it consecutive years, but right now it seems like he seems to be a little bit better. But when you have a guy like Mike Evans on your side who catches touchdown after touchdown, that's all he's been doing, you have an advantage in a sense over a young secondary who's trying to learn themselves.
Sam Cosby talked about this group just getting together, so they're still learning each other. So you can't be disappointed because the offensive line, I thought they played pretty well overall.
Well, yeah, they played a lot better than we thought. And then the thing about it is, yes, they're learning each other, but every team has been learning each other since April. I mean, when they first came back. And I think the way that you learn quicker, you put more into it. And I understand what the rules of football are. And I believe that Dan was giving the guys a chance and doing the things they need to do. But you know what? He's also a guy who's going to work him into shape. He's going to get what he needs to get out of them. And as they play close and be together a little bit more, I think this team is going to show us, it'll make us a lot more happier than the day did. Believe that.
What disappointed you most? I talked to Benjamin St. Juice a little bit. The secondary was an area that concerned me going in. He talked about those crossing patterns by the wide receivers where they were wide open, and he said that just came down to communication, which we've heard of that before in this secondary.
Well, that got me, because I've said that we heard all year Dan Quinn saying, well, we want to hear them before we see them, which means I want you communicating. Well, if they were communicating today, they didn't communicate the right stuff. So having that many holes in the secondary did surprise me, but I don't think it's going to stay that way. And the one thing I saw, we saw one play where I think it was Quan came down all the way down, and then you saw that Samuel still had to go back deep. There's a crossing route touchdown in the back end zone over there. It would be smarter if Quan just stayed deep and let Samuel still stay up. Those type of things are going to come into play. Quan is a second-year guy. Samuel is a first-year guy. They'll figure it out. Their IQ is good enough for where they'll figure that out.
Jamin Davis, who just got moved to a new position, hands down in the dirt, I thought he played pretty solid today. What's your feelings on him?
Well, Joe Witt said, most guys, when we try to change them that could better their career, they didn't want to buy into it. They were out the league real quickly. He said Jamin brought in as soon as he took it to him, and he was willing to go out there and do the things that they asked him to do. He looked like it on the field today, and I think he has a lot of promise at that position.
Jaden Daniels, in finishing out, your assessment of his first time out, what did you like about what he showed?
Well, he got down. For everybody that say he don't know how to protect himself, he protect himself, okay? Now you're going to complain about how he's sliding and how he's getting down. He got down. That's all that matters. He got down, and he had, I think, almost 70% of his passes completed. That's great. For a guy going against a Todd Bowles coach defense where he's going to blitz and do different looks for you, that is something that I think he passed the test on that. And we also saw his legs. His legs is going to help this team for the rest of this year and the rest of his career.
And finish up, Brian, too many mistakes out there. I mean, over and over, we talked about you got to cut down on mistakes. Yep. Dan Quinn talked about that from day one. They made a boatload of them out there tonight.
They did that, and I think the refs made a bunch of mistakes too.
That too.
It seemed to me like, they made a lot of mistakes out there. And the one thing about it, when you're on the football field, you can't beat yourself. You can't fight against yourself. You can't hurt yourself. They did that a few times with penalties, and costly little mistake. Early on, I think it was a part where the ball hit St. Juice in the hand, he drops it. Mm-hmm. Then on the next play, they had a penalty, and then boom, big play comes. If he picks off that ball, those things don't happen. So you gotta capitalize on opportunities when you get them. And they didn't do a good job of that on some times today, but can't have penalties. They kill drives.